Hello everyone and welcome to Sunburned. Albino ranks every minigame in Crash Bash from worst to best, from Crash Ball to Dante's Dash. This list does not include bosses, just the games themselves and every iteration of them, like Tilt Panic, Melt Panic, etc. all getting judged in there. All footage is taken from gold relic attempts and successes, so you'll see some better AI in some of the games, and I mention that because the stakes and danger factor are higher, so I end up playing like a bitch at times. We're going to be rating the levels based on their general fun factor and conceptualization, how dependent on RNG they are to win, and otherwise just how much I like them, without judging their gem or crystal variations, because I definitely want to make a difficulty ranking for the crystals soon at least. Starting from worst and working our way to best. Number worst, Swamp Fox. I gathered 23 crystals for this. After you beat the final boss Oxide, you unlock a secret 5th warp room that contains some of the most not ready for primetime minigames Crash Bash has to offer, and there's no way anybody playtested this absolute trash. Swamp Fox is a let's call it unique take on the tank levels, where instead of bulldozing around in a land-based vehicle, you take to the swamp on a slippery marsh buggy in a tiny flat open area where everyone just spam fires at everyone else, either from across the map or right up in their face, and there's no room to do anything except get hit. You have a force shield in this map that you don't have in other tank games, but it can only block one shot every 3 seconds or so if you press X, and since everyone is raining hellfire on each other without letting up, it doesn't do a whole lot. Koala and Tiny can dominate this map with their high damage per shot, and Rilla and Dinkadile's burst fire can cover a lot of ground, whereas if someone like Coco misses her fucking snail blast attack, she can look forward to waiting an eternity for a chance to re-aim. Statistically, I think Crash and Coco are the worst characters, so I don't know why I picked her, but she's here to suck at almost every game, so please give her a big round of applause. The mines do a ton of damage, but enemies barely even move from their pre-designated corners, so they aren't likely to be hit by them. This level is just pure retrograde ass, and the only way to win is if the enemies are too busy targeting each other to notice you, which is true in all of its challenges. Number 27, Splash Dash. I am a mild fan of the Dash minigames. Don't love them, don't hate them, but they've got some horrible variants, and this is the worst. Splash Dash is all, ooh, look at me, I'm different because I'm underwater and you're riding a sunburned dolphin, but all it does is add RNG obstacles that will randomly pop out of the center and push you into a whirlpool. You can jump over already extended pipes in the only Dash variant where you can jump, but there's no way to predict when you might just get shoved into the depths, so you can either race on the inside and take the constant risk for better lap times, or play closer to the outside to try and react to any intruding protruders, which will make you slower and more vulnerable to enemy missiles and hit and runs. Add this annoying wrinkle to a mode that already loves to kick you while you're down, and you're in for a bad time. Number 26, Dante's Dash. Why is the final level just another Dash game, and worse, a boring one? Located in the same warp room as Splash Dash, Dante's Dash can only be unlocked by getting trophies from all other levels, effectively making it the last one and a humongous letdown. This is the most reskinned reskin. It's basically just Toxic Dash but with lava boulders instead of slime blobs, and the prehistoric set dressing is incredibly bland. With a name like Dante's Dash, I thought we'd be racing in a circle of hell, but judging by the Crystal Challenge, I guess Dante is just the name of a fucking pterodactyl. Number 25, Keg Kaboom. Of all the minigames in Crash Bash, this is the one where I have, like, the least idea of what I'm actually doing, and yet it's not that hard to win, even a gold relic. Basically, you hold square to trail gunpowder behind you, get one of the fires or another player's fire to ignite it, and then walk near barrels to explode them. Your combo resets if your fire goes out, making the regular barrels worthless, which usually only happens if you let go of square. So basically the strat is to just hold square the entire time while mashing R1 for probably no reason, and occasionally walk over other people's fire or the surrounding fires to stay lit, while meandering aimlessly towards the general idea of where some barrels are. I don't get it while I'm doing it, but my score doesn't lie. Glad there's only one of this kind. Number 24, Mallet Mash. Welcome to the game of, are you near the gold mushroom when it spawns in a random area? No? Then you lose. Mallet Mash is RNG to the core, but there are a couple things you can do to help give yourself the best chance. You run around hitting mushrooms as they spawn to earn points, and the longer a mushroom exists, the more points you get, up to a certain amount to where the mushroom will then explode if nobody ever touches it. You can do normal swings with a tap of square, or a charged swing by holding square, which will release a little shockwave that knocks people over who are near to you. The game is 90 seconds long, and in that time 4 gold mushrooms will spawn that are worth 10 points. Unless people don't hit it right away, then it can be worth 15 or even 20. In my testing, the gold mushroom spawns in a random location when the timer is around 1:15, 55, 35, and 15, give or take a few seconds. So if you see the clock near there, you'll want to migrate to the middle of the arena to have the best chance of snatching one. In some cases, if you're the first person to a golden mushroom by a bit, the AI will give up and go elsewhere, so you can capitalize by holding your mallet over the golden mushroom until it shakes enough to be worth 15 or 20 points. Tips aside, this game is still bad. Number 23, Pogo a Go-Go. Hey girl, you trying to smash, or should my Pogo a Go-Go? You know how all the other Pogo levels have you break boxes to get score? Not Pogo a Go-Go, man. In this one, you can only score by making a closed loop of your color, like making a square with empty space in the middle, which can be easily foiled by opponents jumping on your shit and creating gaps. They also thought the missiles should go in 4 cardinal directions instead of just 1, and that there should be another weapon that pierces targets to stun them, which is a duo that makes relic challenges supremely frustrating, since the enemies only target you and have pinpoint accuracy. Prepare to be stunned for like half the time limit when all you're trying to do is stay in your humble little corner painting 9s over and over again. This is a real strategy since the walls count as part of your closed loop, so if you do it in a corner of your own color, you only need to hop half the spaces to make your squares. But the AI doesn't know when to leave well enough alone and will randomly come over and visit just to be a dick. The best way to win is to have like 100% boots uptime so you bounce around at lightning speeds, but if any enemy has a missile or lightning bolt, you better watch them like a hawk and never pogo into their line of sight. In the trophy challenges, it's much more relaxed, but the AI will still get these random 32 bangers and you're like, what the hell, who gave him half the map? Number 22, Pogo Painter. I don't love pogo levels, but at least Pogo Painter is basic and has a relatively smaller amount of BS. The lightning bolts are gone, the missiles only shoot one way, and score crates are here to be pogoed on without needing to pass geometry class. Just get boots and go nuts. Number 21, El Pogo Loco. Did I mention I don't love pogo levels? Ripperoo as an obstacle is nice though. He'll bounce around the arena and occasionally cut in to leave some TNTs on the ground that stun people in surrounding squares, while sometimes also leaving a generous 4-way arrow that paints whoever lands on its color in all 4 directions. You also get the benefit of filling in empty squares by surrounding them with your color like in Pogo a Go-Go, but still with classic score crates so you don't have to rely on that. Number 20, Jungle Fox. The second tank level in this list, Jungle Fox is also wide open like Swamp Fox, but at least it's the more traditional and methodical rule set, so you're not just spamming the high heavens, and you've got the totem buffer in the middle. I definitely prefer more in the way of cover in my tank minigames. It's still too exposed out here, and if Coco misses a shot, she falls asleep at the wheel for 10 seconds. This level's gimmick is the aforementioned totem pole, which has sections that bounce onto the playing field and do massive damage with the resulting shockwaves. After a bit, the heads get up, find another place to sit, and make another devastating ass crash. Rinse and repeat. The problem is, I don't think this mechanic starts soon enough. There's a good 25 seconds of inaction from these things, and by the time they burst onto the scene, most people are dead or dying already. They also always do their initial bounces in the bottom left and bottom right consecutively, so the people who spawn at the top are inherently safer. If it was less predictable, it would be a better mechanic. Number 19, Polar Panic. The first Polar Bear level is the worst simply because all the other ones are better. This one serves as an introduction, so it's simple, but in this case that means it's also lame. You've got ice stacked around the edges that has to be broken before you can push people off, which stagnates the procedure and makes the lightning power-up less good because you can't knock everyone off as fast. This is a game archetype where character stats are different. Coco has short rams that are less powerful but use less stamina, while Cortex uses all his stamina for one huge charge. Tiny and Kong are probably the best balance of having a lot of force and decent stamina management, but as far as the CPU is concerned, the stats are just a guideline. I've been knocked across the map by Coco, and as Cortex, I've been completely unable to budge anybody at times. It's all about when you ram as a defensive option to revert momentum. The timing is unclear and the effects are wildly inconsistent. I had a Cortex knock me across the map into the drink even after I rammed to save myself, and as Coco I lose probably 80% of my head-to-heads no matter when I ram, even if I do it twice. The opponent goes nowhere and I'm somehow knocked back. Anyway, always go for the power-up beam because no matter what you get, it's easy to not be killed by it because enemies are easy to kite and easy to pass a weight to. The lightning power-up is always a difference maker. Number 18, Manic Panic. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it is to lose a power struggle to a dude who isn't even on a goddamn polar bear? Manic Panic introduces bombs and the ability to murder your opponent's mounts. Toss a bomb at a guy and Polar gets to drink all the coke he wants in heaven, and then another bomb flung at an ice skater will instantly turn them into black powder. When they're on foot, enemies can't mash square to save themselves from falling off a ledge, but they can damn sure refuse to get pushed anywhere, at least when the AI is in control. Me, I skate around and immediately get mollywopped into the stratosphere, but everyone else is super good at holding their ground. Collecting every bomb that appears is the most efficient way to eliminate the competition, especially on the highest difficulties. Number 17, Drain Bash. Crate Crush is my favorite minigame archetype. I love chucking and spinning boxes at people until they die violent deaths, but Drain Bash makes the crates do way less damage in favor of adding offensive power-ups in the randomized purple boxes. These are the only reliable way to do damage. You'll either get a shockwave that lingers for a bit as you walk, 2 fires of an 8-way missile, or 3 uses of a homing orb that often homes incorrectly but does massive damage. The gameplay generally boils down to everyone breaking the purple crates nearest to them until someone gets a power-up, and it's very lame. Number 16, Dot Dash. The introductory dash level is inoffensive. There's no annoying obstacle besides other players. You just pick up Wumpa Fruit to boost and missiles to shoot, and then if you get knocked off, you will probably get knocked off 3 more times in a row, because that's just what happens. Somebody shot you with a missile, and as you spawned back in with your huge acceleration delay and 0 invincibility frames, somebody hit you with another missile and sent you right back off. And then as you spawned again, before you could move, somebody bumped into you a little and sent you careening right back down, etc., etc., until someone else finishes the race. You know how sometimes in Mario Kart you'll get hit like 3 times in a row and go from 2nd to 9th? This is worse. There's no comeback mechanic, you're just fucked. The minigame controls by you tilting left or right on the analog stick to go left or right, no matter where you are on the track with an isometric view, so if your character is facing you and you want them to go to your left, you still have to tilt right because it's their right from their perspective. Basically, I'm saying it's harder to control than it looks. You can coast to first place without even using any boost if you just hug the inner wall and gently tap right on the stick to keep slightly turning around the whole thing, but this strategy stops working on higher difficulties because the enemies boost around like the Dickens and leave you in the dust. It's still good to avoid getting rammed though. Number 15, Skyballs. This is the jankiest ballistics minigame because you're up in the sky and perpetually tilted at this slight angle, which makes certain maneuvers that would save your ball in any other variant still score on you in this one. The balls are just slipperier, and you move left to right in a bit of a curve, which also makes things weird. Every now and then one of the engines will fail and tilt the platform in a certain direction, influencing all the balls to go toward it, which I like as a mechanic, but in this case it also adds to the jank. You'll somehow hit balls in a direction perpendicular to you, and then they just slide off into your own goal anyway. I'm a big fan of the ballistics archetype, but this is the worst one, and don't even get me started on the Crystal Challenge. Number 14, Dragon Drop. This is the only minigame in Warp Room 5 that I actually like. It's super chaotic and annoying at times, but conceptually it's great. On your dragon, you must pick up one of only 2 gems everyone fights over and shoot it at the roving target for more points depending on which zone you're standing in when you launch it. If you don't have a gem, you can ram an opponent in an attack that needs a lot more cooldown to knock it out of their hands and try to pick it up yourself. The beginning is pure frantic nonsense, with everyone just spamming square and not letting anyone breathe, until the last 45 seconds when a 3rd gem spawns and alleviates some of the pressure. The best way to win is to go for 5-point shots every time, which are easy to do since you just point at the target and shoot, and in a neat bit of trickery, if the target is at the far left or right, you can stand in the 5-point zone, face left or right in a 90-degree angle, depending on which side the target is, and lob the gem off the back corner to ricochet it into the target. This works pretty much 100% of the time and makes it easy to get the gold relic. Your only issue will be holding on to a gem long enough to do anything with it because the AI will gangbang you with ram attacks even if you don't have a gem because they're fucking psychotic. Number 13, Snow Bash. Do you enjoy slipping and perhaps even sliding? Then Snow Bash is for you. This crate crush takes place on ice, and in the description the game's like, "Don't wake the penguin." So of course everybody wakes the penguin, who gets up and spins around the arena knocking away boxes and players for big damage until it settles down again. Generally speaking, it's good to wake the penguin at all times, so he can do all the work for you while you jump around and lament the fact that you don't have ice skates. But this is another level where the actual box-throwing core gameplay is overshadowed by a gimmick that prevents it from being that effective. Number 12, Beach Ball. Have you ever fallen asleep waiting for a ball to come towards you? You'll definitely start to nod off in the beginning of Beach Ball. The general speed of balls has been reduced, but the flip side is that you can now catch, hold, and release balls at a super high speed. This paves the way for some neat strategy and fake-outs in multiplayer with real human beings, but against AI they have frame 1 reaction time and every ball they let in is a choice, so... Number 11, Melt Panic. I like Melt Panic, no blocked edges, and the arena gradually gets smaller as Uka Uka melts it in specific places. This variant makes the beam more dangerous because it has a greater chance to afflict you negatively, either by freezing you or turning you into a snowball, both of which usually mean you're getting unceremoniously tackled off the ledge. It's a decent minigame. Number 10, Ring Ding. Now for our top 10, Ring Ding barely makes the cut for being the only one-off minigame that isn't in Warp Room 5 and therefore doesn't suck. Clearly they were confident about this one. On this rotating clockwork gear thing, you jump up and touch balloons that are your color to score while getting stunned if you touch someone else's. There's 2 power-ups. One is a set of boots that make it so you can run at normal speed even against the rotation of the gear, but that also means you can't run with the gear to boost your speed either. And the other is the 10 times better and very necessary one, the vacuum, which sucks all balloons of your color above you to be easily jumped at. You can press square to attack people and stun them and remove their power-ups, and of course when you get a vacuum everyone's coming after you, as they should, but there's a good trick to staying ahead of them, which is to continuously jump against the rotation of the clock as they all kind of fall in line behind you trying to catch up, but they can't because they never jump toward you. Now there's also black balloons, which either destroy all balloons that aren't your color, switch the rotation of the gear, or turn every balloon your color, and there's a couple of them around at all times, so people are going to be hitting that constantly. If someone else gets a vacuum, drop what you're doing and go give them the fucking business immediately. You need to swiftly punish them for their wrongdoing or they will stack up hella score. I don't love this game, but it's unique in a good way and is an example of what all the Warp 5 stuff should have been. Number 9, Pogo Padlock. A Pogo game in the top 10? What can I say? This one does some things right. I think it's the most balanced variant. The gimmick is that if you step on your own color, you lose all your squares, so you're constantly on your toes planning your route. But you can find padlock power-ups that lock your squares for a period of time and prevent anyone from painting over them. Personally, I think this power-up should stack with anything else you pick up. That's a change I would make, because going from boots to padlock and sacrificing the speed for security feels like a waste of boots. There's another important gimmick though, which is that if you hit someone with a missile, you steal all of their accumulated squares. This is a great way to balance missiles against boots to create multiple paths to success. Sure, someone might be tearing it up in their timberlands, racking up color, but if someone aims a well-timed missile, boom, it's all theirs now. It also shouldn't be overlooked that the funky jazz track in the background is probably the best piece of music in the game, so you can vibe while you pogo. This is pogo done right. Number 8, Desert Fox. I used to not like the Fox minigames, but now I've learned to channel all of my rage into Swamp Fox, and mostly appreciate the rest. Even though Coco is the worst character for this because of her low shot speed and low damage, I find tanks to be enjoyable, and you can outmaneuver your opponents pretty well as long as you don't get sandwiched between them. The mines in this one, and the next one, activate a Bomberman blast that travels screen-wide in every direction, so good placement of those can trip up the AI, who often doesn't even care that you put that shit there. If it gets down to a 1v1, you can pretty much guarantee you won't get hit as long as you play defensive and make the dude chase you everywhere like an absolute bastard. Number 7, Jungle Bash. The first Crate Crush game. This is a basic introduction to the core gameplay, but because that's so fun inherently, it actually benefits from not being overshadowed by obfuscating gimmicks. This is just pure Jungle Bash action. Pick up or kick crates at people, use your invincibility frames to walk up to people who have crates in their hands and destroy them for damage, kick someone directly and then immediately throw a crate at them because kicking them doesn't give them iframes, and hoard the TNTs because they do more damage. Go on a Wumpa Fruit run if you're low on health, and for an extra challenge, cosplay as the AI and immediately throw every crate you pick up instead of walking around with it even though nobody is in range of you. Maybe they thought it would be too hard if the enemies could carry boxes toward you. Then again, these are the people who made Swamp Fox, so I doubt they had the player experience on their mind at any point during development. Number 6, Tilt Panic. Tilt Panic is the best polar minigame in my estimation because the gimmick isn't intrusive but still exploitable. This mode basically makes the lightning power-up a hands-free win because the arena will tilt all the shocked opponents off the ice without you having to lift a finger. Just walk over to their general area to help shift the dead weight off the edge. Otherwise there's just more good polar panic action with no pesky bumpers, so you're free to get shot off at a moment's notice. Number 5, Toxic Dash. Here we are with the top 5, and Toxic Dash makes the cut for being one of the more original variants of any of the minigames. The toxic waste backdrop is pretty yet disgusting, and the barrels that initially litter the track are great automatic hinderers of the AI who don't even try not to hit them. The centerpiece is the giant sludge monster in the middle though, who periodically pops up, claps his hands together, and spawns 3 sentient waste blobs who hop along the track from the bottom to the top before jumping off. Hitting one obviously sends you flying, but they can always be avoided by hugging the inner ring. There's also a new power-up that acts as an AoE push, which does a great job of ruining anyone's day next to you. Being that it's a dash minigame, there's always the risk of you getting 3-peated off the ledge by consecutive bumpage, but I still think this is the best version of a pretty decent minigame. Number 4, Metal Fox. The best tank level is Metal Fox by far. Not only is the backdrop the coolest one, taking place in a dark cave with crashed planes in it for some reason, but the arena itself shifts every now and then, creating different paths for you and your bullets to travel. This always keeps you on your treads, and the new bomb power-up is OP as hell, able to be lobbed over walls at people to demolish half their health in a flash. This is tanking at its highest peak, and if they ever remade Crash Bash like they should have done years ago, I could see this being the most popular tank mode in online multiplayer. Number 3, Crash Ball. I don't think there's a better minigame archetype than ballistics. I know I said Crate Crush was my favorite, but I think this is like objectively the best. Even the most basic variant, Crash Ball, is just a blast and a half to play. No gimmicks, just 4 people in a metal grid hitting balls at each other until 3 of them have too many to handle and explode. One thing that would be nice about online multiplayer if they did it in a remake here is that they could make it so everyone in the lobby has the camera centered on their character at the bottom, so player 3 and 4 don't have to be on the sides with that terrible angle, and then nobody has a disadvantage. Number 2, Enbalism. This might be a controversial pick, but I personally love the chaos of Enbalism. It's the most fast-paced ballistics game, so they upped everyone's life total to 20, and there's a couple gimmicks that other people might find unfair or annoying, but I'm all for. The first is the red force field power-up that spawns in a random corner of the map where only 2 players can access it, so it becomes a reaction test that I fail almost every time, especially because even on easy difficulty the AI instantly knows that it spawned, and most of the time they decide to immediately go for it unless they're busy blocking a ball on the other side. This force field lasts about 10 seconds and auto-pushes away any ball that comes near you. It's not impossible to be scored on when you have this, but it's much less likely. The second gimmick is that Engine himself, the man, the myth, the drummer, spawns in the center of the map periodically and starts spinning around shooting balls in all 4 directions one after the other in quick succession, massively populating the play space and making little beads of sweat drip down the forehead of tryhards everywhere. If you're lucky, sometimes the force field power-up spawns for like half a second and then disappears right before he does this, and if you manage to get it, you'll be sitting pretty during the whole ordeal. Just remember that while he's shooting balls in every direction, he's still a physical object, so balls you hit that bounce off him can come right back to you and say psych. But yeah, even though I can almost never get the force field, I don't think any other minigame has the tension or sense of required focus that Enbalism does when Engine pops into frame. I think that's the single best part of Crash Bash as a whole. Number 1, Space Bash. But I do still love me some Space Bash. The best minigame in Crash Bash is Space Bash, which takes the Crate Crush formula and puts it on top of a destructible floor. Any TNT or nitro explosion will take out a square of the floor, and if you fall in, you're donezo. This creates easy opportunities to just walk up and kick someone into a hole Sparta style, and with enough explosions you can trap people in certain corners of the map, which in general doesn't really do either of you any good since nobody likes to draw, but if you're a long thrower like Brio or Tiny, you might be able to snipe them as they sit there helplessly. The Crystal Challenge ratchets this up to 11 by making all the boxes TNTs or Nitros, which is by far the most fun Crystal Challenge in the entire game. If this game had online multiplayer, I would queue into Space Bash for like an hour straight. It's that fun. But that's going to do it for this ranking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos while never picking Rillaroo, and I'll see you guys next time.